It's Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., February 8th. This is a meeting of the Personnel Committee. All members are present. I'd like to call to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first order of business is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from January 11th, 2022. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Any citizens' comments?
Good morning.
Good morning. You can go up to the podium and.
I need a mic.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Chad Neal. I've lived here since 1999. A father of two teenage boys, a scout leader, and a local business owner. I just wanted to put a face with a name. I've never come to one of these meetings. I've never been involved in any politics. I'm one of the two that have been recommended for the commissioner for the water and sewer. I'm not here to sell you. I do business in person if I can. And I wanted to put a face with a name. I've got a really unique, I think, background because I've been involved in the utility business since I was 13. Pipes and cables in the ground. So ditch witch or machinery that puts pipes and cables in the ground. And I go out almost on a daily basis and work with contractors, work with other utilities, work with other business owners. So I'm kind of a hands-on person. And if you have any questions, so be it. If not, I'm going to exit. Like I said, I just wanted, I tell my staff and my sales team, if you have an opportunity, get in front of them, shake the hands, tell them what you're about, and let the chips fall where they may. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate your comments. All right, we can move on to old business. The first item is the update on the fire chief hiring process.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Happy to report that we have successfully completed the skill evaluation process for the top 5 candidates. This process was conducted by the recruiting firm that we hired, Developmental Associates, and a group of 13 current fire chiefs. Those include the fire chiefs and 1 deputy chief from neighboring communities, Goose Creek, Hilton Head, City of Charleston, Georgetown, North Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and also a few communities from Georgia, including Savannah, Athens, Augusta, and Albany. So we're very, very impressed by the support and the help that we were provided by these folks, people with very busy schedules, as you can imagine. They participated in a 2-day assessment center with the 5 candidates, and they performed 4 skill evaluation exercises. And those included a written exercise, a coaching role play, a presentation, and a meeting exercise. This was one of the things that really impressed us from this recruitment firm because they really went, they go above and beyond to prove skills, not necessarily just what they say they can do in an interview or write what they can do or have done in a resume, but really prove and have people who do the work that they are intending to do, to have them assess it. So we had a full briefing with the 13 fire chiefs that participated and the recruitment staff, where they provided just very thorough and comprehensive feedback on every one of the candidates. And that helped us narrow down the list from 5 to 3. Those 3 top candidates are going to be interviewed by myself and Janice. We have an interview scheduled this afternoon, another one for tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the 3rd one will be on Thursday. Our goal is to narrow that down to 2 candidates that we will bring to the city for you all to meet, for the department to meet, for the staff here, the department heads and myself to meet in person with a series of interviews, including an interview by city council. So we'll be doing that, and hopefully my goal is to get feedback from those people that are going to be working with them, as well as the rest of my staff, so that I can make a recommendation to city council for an appointment. So we're right on track with our timeline. As you all know, Chief Briscoe is here on a contract basis through the end of March. My goal would be to have the final candidate, once offered a position, to have some time that overlaps with Chief Briscoe so that he can provide, a seamless transition between his tenure, obviously Deputy Chief Hathaway, and the new candidate. So again, very, very proud about the process that we've gone through, and I appreciate City Council supporting that process to make sure that, again, we find the right candidate, the right candidate for our department.
John, can I ask a quick question? Desiree, are we wanting to do that city council the 22nd?
That would be,
Yeah. Okay.
yes, if we can, we have been able to meet our own schedule. And that would be the next time when these folks can come and meet you all.
That's great.
So they'll come and meet city council, and then would we make the selection, or is it council that makes the selection?
It would be full council who would be making the final appointment based on a recommendation from me.
Any other comments, questions?
Good progress.
The next item on the agenda is discussion of proposed guidelines for the Spirit of the Island Award to recognize a remarkable single achievement or action by a citizen or organization of the island. There is a draft that was as part of the packet. Is there any discussion or comment on the draft?
Just a couple of quick questions real quick. The first sentence talks about it being a citizen of IOP. Next sentence talks about it being an individual or an organization. So I know we've gone back and forth, I think, on our focus on this particular award, but is it a resident? I mean, you have to have permanent residency of IOP, or are we broadening a recipient? Any thoughts? And Desiree, like, I know we talked about this last year when we first kicked this off, and I think we went back and forth, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think that there's been some discussion about whether or not it would just be specific to island residents. I think we hadn't had a draft for you all to kind of evaluate and kind of pick and choose. But at the last council meeting, Councilmember Ward indicated a desire to include the ability for an organization, a group, to be eligible. So I think that that's why the draft tries to broaden it so that it would be included. But that's really up to this group and council if you want to narrow the eligibility criteria for anybody who may be nominated.
Yeah, I think your distinction is that it says in the first sentence, a citizen of Isle of Palms, and in the second paragraph, it just says to an individual organization that made significant contributions. So I think your Councilman Mayor Pounds' question is to us, I think, is, does it have to be a citizen or doesn't it have to be a citizen? I guess there's some debate, but we should debate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with an organization. I think that's fine. I guess it's really
Can we put citizen or organization?
That's certainly, we can do that. Is that what you all would
If that's the
want to
intent,
see,
yeah.
that the intent is that it would be for a resident of the island?
because remind me, the Signal Award is open to anybody.
Correct.
To me, parallel it then personally, but that's just my opinion. And broaden it.
Right. I mean,
I
do we
agree.
need to say it's a local organization, or just say citizen or organization on the Isle of Palms?
Try to think about the verbiage and a situation, say it's the American Heart Association.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a local organization in its truest sense.
Well, that would come under the Signal 30 award, though, for something like that, right? I mean, I think that was, when I was talking with,
I think if you,
I was just going to say that it seemed to me that the distinction was supposed to be that the Signal 30 was for anyone, including off-islanders. And this award would be something just for the local community. And it was
But meaning what?
people
Just
who were,
IOP?
yeah, Isle of Palms. That was my understanding, but I may be wrong.
And I do want to kind of just remembering about the original conversation. So the signal 30 is supposed to be, you know, the highest honor.
Yeah.
And the spirit of the island could highlight something extraordinary, of course, but it was supposed to be sort of a second tier, if you will, of an award being able to be provided to a citizen, whatever you all decide. So I think that there was another distinction to be made to maintain the Signal 30 award to be for something, you know, extremely extraordinary, if you will, and then something else. So that may be, I don't know if that helps.
My recommendation is that we leave it a little bit broad, and that if you just eliminated the first sentence, it kind of opened it up to, you know, I think it still has the significant, it gets across the meaning of what the award is and opens it up to those that also would be off the island or not citizens of the island. I think that could be all considered when you're in a nomination committee, whether it's an island resident or not an island resident, what the significance of the achievement is when whether they go forward with the award or not.
Mhm.
So my recommendation would be just eliminate the first sentence
Okay.
and we move this forward to council.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a good point.
Do we need to, we don't need a motion or anything for that?
No, what we can do is just edit the draft and present the amended version to the council meeting.
Okay.
You want to make, I mean, you can make a motion that you bring this, these guidelines as presented, as amended, as amended to city council for consideration and approval.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, then we go to the third item, which is discussion of the code of conduct for members of city council. Again, there was information provided in the packet. Is there discussion on this item?
So just, if I may, Chair, to explain what's included in the packet. The first document that you have is a draft that was prepared using the City of Charleston's Code of Conduct as a guide, basically word by word, using the same process that they have implemented for sort of making y'all accountable to each other in a way, and the process by which you all could address any member who fails to meet that oath of office. Included in the packet is the state code regarding ethics laws that is referenced in that draft of the code of conduct, and also Robert's rules, section 61, which talks about breaches of conduct within a meeting, which is also referenced in that document. So I wanted to include that just for, you know, to be as comprehensive as possible, because that document is referencing these two sections. And then on page 14, there is a different code of conduct. And this is something that while I was doing my research, I found that, and I remembered this, but I didn't quite remember how far along, I guess we had gone back in 2017 when this topic was discussed by this same committee, and ultimately no action was taken at the council level. But there was a similar discussion at the time, and based on the feedback and discussions of that committee, this code of conduct was developed. It's a little bit more comprehensive. I think it's more specific in some areas, and just because we had it had been worked on, I wanted to include it and let you all look at it, discuss it, and see whether maybe you like this version or the other one, or a combination of the two. So I just wanted to, just for background and for grounding for everybody, what you have in front of you. As part of that code of conduct is included a resolution, which is referenced in that draft of the code of conduct, which would be then approved by city council, and that's how city council would be adopting the code of conduct. That's also included in the packet.
Yeah, I looked at, I like that, the version that was created in 2017. I'm glad you found that. But it seems to, it does seem to be more specific on the conduct, and I like that element of it. The O seems to be pretty broad. This particular draft, though, does include councils, boards, committees, and commissions, and I would recommend that we not include that broad of a group into this initial draft, that we just keep it to council. What I don't particularly, what's not very descriptive is though how we hold each other accountable in that. It's not as descriptive as the previous version. So I'd like to see some version that includes the code of conduct of the 2017 version, but has the enforcement of the one come from the city of Charleston, and to combine those two. I don't think there's a huge rush to get this done in any certain time. I think we can, you know, I'd like to hear other discussion on it, but that we could try to take a shot at combining those two and then looking at it at the next meeting again. But I'd like to hear other thoughts as well.
Desiree, any idea what happened in 17 and why it didn't go further?
I think it was right before the heels of an election, and I think that at the time, council didn't want to have that discussion. I think that there was some conversation that it was redundant, that those things should be expected regardless of whether or not there's a code of conduct. I do recall some comments to that end. So I think it just, the timing
timing,
wasn't
yeah.
appropriate in the eyes of the sitting council at
Yeah.
the time.
Well, and 5 years later, there's certainly been changes to take us down a different path. And John, I think I would agree with you. I like starting with council. I would be curious too, Desiree, if there was anything you remember about that group wanting to broaden it to boards and commissions and appointments and everything. But I mean, I get that too, but I wouldn't mind walking a little bit before we broaden it out and just do it with council. So yeah, John, I agree with you. I think I like the combo. I like the enforcement of the first one or the recent one that we drafted. But I like the meat of the 2017 version.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask, wouldn't council have govern boards and commissions? So if there's someone on a board or commission that's misbehaving, council can remove them?
I would like to think, I think that there's a process, right? I mean, just like you all appoint somebody, but there's no guidelines currently about
Okay.
how to do that.
Okay, so that,
I would have to look and, noodle on that a little bit more and maybe talk to legal about what would be the appropriate process to do that, should that be the case.
yeah, I guess I'm asking, that's a redundancy question, do we already have jurisdiction over that? Don't need to have it in this group. But I tend to agree with the other two, with John and Philip, that let's start with just getting council ethics up, and then we can expand it if we need to later. I also agree that the code of conduct that we were given at our last meeting, which I guess is the latest draft, is more about enforcing the code of conduct without giving it much meat in terms of what the code of conduct is. So I agree with the chairperson Bogosian that we should combine the two, with the enforcement coming out of the latest one and the description of what our conduct should be in the earlier version.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll combine the two and just change that implementation section of the 2017 version and include the enforcement process that's included in the shorter version, the newer version. And we'll bring that before you all for next month for you to look at and before making a recommendation of where you want to take it.
One more clarification for me. We are governed by the rules, Robert's Rules of Order, or are those guidelines now for us?
No, that is codified that the city follows Robert's rules.
Okay. And and the state law, we're governed by that.
That's correct.
So we already have some ethics rules right now in place. Okay.
Correct, and they're included in your packet, and that's what the city of Charleston's version references. It just goes back to state law or city code.
Is that why they stuck to just enforcement and not really defining what the ethics?
Correct. They're just
Okay.
restating the existing rules and regulations by which council members and elected officials have to be governed by and have to meet. So they just make reference of those documents. All right, well, we have our assignment, and then we'll only include council, not board not appointed members. And we'll bring that over to you all next month.
All right. The next item is the consideration of recommendation from the IOP Water and Sewer Commission for appointment to fill the vacancy. I see they've come forward with two candidates. I see Jay's here as well. I guess the question is how do we move forward from here with now we have with two candidates, to me.
Councilman Bogosian, can I make a motion now to table this till next month because there's been some new information that's come forward?
You can make a motion, I
Well,
guess.
And then open it
What,
to discussion.
I guess we should have a discussion about it,
Yeah,
right?
you
Is
need
that
a-
why Jay's here?
Move it a second.
Yeah, you need a second
Yeah,
before
okay.
you have discussion.
Is there a second?
No seconds, so the motion dies. You may want to hear from the council, the chair of the commission, and kind of listen to what the process that they followed and see if they have any suggestions. Jay, do you want to, if you don't mind going to the mic?
Morning. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, I've mentioned it to both Mayor Pounds and Jan, that this is the first time we've had the opportunity when a commissioner needs to be replaced to have input. So thank you for that. We followed what Desiree put out as a deadline or a timeline on applications being submitted. And quite frankly, the four that came about all had superlative qualifications in their own right. We culled it down or pared it down to two. Primarily, the main reason for David's, who's really the subject of the conversation, is that he didn't qualify by reason of registration and maybe residency. We have a full outline of state statute. So we paired it to the two that we did recommend. And ultimately, the decision is going to be city council. So at this juncture, conversations with our legal counsel is we've made our recommendations. The ball is in y'all's court. And that's kind of where we're standing with it. I mean, again, we do appreciate the opportunity that we've had to be part of the selection period process. But ultimately, it's y'all's decision. So that's kind of where we're at.
So in your packets, you have two applications, which are the members that have been recommended by the commission, Mr. Chad Neal, who you heard from this morning, and then Jeffrey Forsland. At this time, I think maybe we weren't clear to the Water and Sewer Commission that you may only wanted one candidate, but two have been brought forward. So it's up to the committee to either take action based on the information that's presented, which is the application, knowing that they would be agreeable to any of the two candidates presented, or if you all want to interview both of these candidates before making a recommendation.
I wouldn't feel comfortable making a decision because I don't know either one of the candidates. I would like to meet with them personally. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I don't know either one of them.
Pardon we gave this responsibility to the Water and Sewer Commission for a reason, because they certainly know their business better than we do. I mean, to me, if they're coming to us with a recommendation of 2 people, and I think I'm hearing you say, Jay, either one or duly all 4 were qualified, but you're coming with either 2, and if either we pick one or we have some conversation with them. I mean, I think that's our 2 options personally.
I would have no basis to pick one
Yeah.
though, other than alphabetical
Yeah.
or whatever the thing.
Showed
So
up
that,
today,
yeah.
I might add one more thing.
Yes, it's for the audio, Jay. Thank you.
Everybody. I would go with what you're recommending, John, is to sit down with both of them on a face-to-face, just to get, what we got.
Yeah.
And, it's not a lengthy process. We took like 15, 20 minutes for each of the candidates and got everything we needed to know in a short period of time. So
Yeah.
I would go with that if I were you.
And I don't know if there's if the timing is important on this, if we could still try to do something this week and next week and bring it to the 22nd council meeting, or how would we go about doing that? The
I
timeframe?
would ask the chair of the commission,
Yeah.
because we have a couple options. You can invite them to your next regular meeting in March and then make the recommendation, which would come before council at the end of March. If that timeline's okay with you, or the earlier the better.
Yeah, sooner the better, obviously, just to have a full body, full commission. And as I said, I don't know what your time elements, I mean, it probably has to be advertised for a special meeting for the personnel.
It
So,
would be,
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty much in your court as to how, time element, obviously sooner the better, but the pressing issues now, other than complaints of the pile driving that's going to start taking place at the new plant, everything else is running smoothly.
I mean, John, I think, we're going 5 months without a council person. I don't think another 30 days is gonna be that big. If we want to do something special, I think that's fine, but if we want to wait a month, I don't think.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I don't-
personally, but I'm good either way, whatever you call.
All right, well, then why don't we just plan at the next meeting to have them, to interview them then?
And that may be helpful too. We don't know what their schedules are for the
Yeah.
2 candidates, if they can quickly come to a special meeting. So
Okay.
this gives them a couple weeks to plan.
All right. So, new business. Discussion of the 10-year capital plan for general government and building department, which is also included in the packet. Desiree, do you want to walk us through that?
Yes. I'll start with general government. Page, we've included the 10-year capital plan. This is the first draft. And this committee has historically had some oversight or purview on general government, mayor, council, and the building department. So we're presenting both of those to you all. We've included in our capital request for this upcoming fiscal year, $10,000 to replace HVAC units. That's an only with failure item that we include as a placeholder in the budget. We split that. You'll see that there's also $10,000 in the building department. Everything related to the building and maintenance, we split between both the general government and building department. We've included $16,000 for the replacement of the city administrator and the mayor's MTS radios. The city transition, so these are the radios that the police department and the fire department have, and they use that to communicate when they are on calls. Historically, the city administrator has always had one, and the mayor for just communication purposes in the event of an emergency. The last time when the city transitioned to the new type radios, which are encrypted, were consistent with everybody in the county, we didn't replace those 2, and so they're kind of on different channels. They don't work very well, and this would bring us up to speed with the same equipment that the fire department and the police department have. One difference is that we are no longer able to listen to the police department's radio because of safety considerations. We can't communicate per se, but we'll be able to listen to as calls are being handled. Then the last item that we have under general government, it's $620,000. It's fully offset by grant funds. This is a FEMA flood mitigation grant that a resident of our community received from FEMA to elevate his home. And the way that these grant work is that FEMA does not pay that grant directly to the applicant. The city at the time submitted the application as a sub-applicant. That means that the money comes to the city, then gives it to the property owner, and then the city receives full reimbursement from FEMA. This is something that has been rebudgeted for a couple years. The original grant application was for about, I recall, 300,000, around 250, between 250 and 300,000. And when the applicant went to go for bid, the cost of all the bids that he received were much higher than the grant amount. So he's in the process of getting that grant application amended by FEMA. And there seems to be a favorable, it seems to be like he will be successful at that. So we're just budgeting this. It's fully offset by grant funds, and the city won't expend any money until it's received by FEMA.
This is the amended amount, 620?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm. Then we also have, and this is something I just want to give a shout out to Douglas. Douglas assisted this, Douglas Carr, building department director and deputy administrator. He assisted this particular resident with submitting the application. He's assisted two folks already. One was denied, and then this one was granted. So it's a very thorough process and a very competitive and difficult to obtain grant. So that's something that we're proud of.
Just to clarify, this is for persistent flooding? at the
Correct.
home?
This is a home that meets the, it's a criteria that from FEMA where repetitive flooding. So he has suffered significant loss repetitively, therefore becomes eligible for this grant to elevate his home. Then we have half of the 1% of the insured value. This is part of our ongoing maintenance initiative to proactively address maintenance needs in all city buildings and assets. Same, we're splitting that between the building department and the general government. And that is a line that is managed by our Assistant Director of Public Works for Facilities and Maintenance. Then under the building department, we just have, half of the HVAC replacement only with failure costs, and half of the 1% of the building maintenance contingency. That's all we have.
Discussion?
Desiree, I know we've had this conversation on these radios, which are expensive, obviously. I mean, is that a real need from your view? Because I think about with cell phones and everything, I know you can't listen to what's happening to the event, with the fire department. And it's not a huge amount of money, but I mean, it's a lot of money for two radios.
I've thought about it as well. It's sort of been a historical, it's always been done this way, which I hate saying. Have I used it during my time as a city administrator? Maybe a handful of times when there's a call, structure fire, and I know that everybody's plugged into the incident and they're not going to answer my call, not that I expect them to. It's helpful to kind of listen so that I can communicate to you all, what's going on. But in reality, anytime an incident of that degree happens, the department heads know to call me. They call me on my phone and they let me know what's going on. And I don't call them until they call me back, which I know that they've got it handled. So is it necessary? You know what? Maybe not. Maybe it's a nice to have in the event of a major incident. maybe the reason we haven't used it as much is we haven't had a major hurricane. But if we do and cell reception is not great, just think about worst case scenario, then that is something that we would be able to have to communicate.
Yeah.
So it's sort of do we need it every day? No, but when you need it, you want to have it.
Well, on the cell phone reception, is a good comment. That's
Correct.
fair. And then any idea how old the HVAC units are in this building?
No.
It seems like it's been a while.
It has been a while and we haven't had to replace, and I'm looking at Amy because I don't know if she knows, but I don't recall them having been replaced in the last 5 years.
Okay, I know we did the
mhm.
generator here, but
We did the
that's it.
generator. So but again, only with failure. If they fail, we have to replace them and, we have that. If they don't, we don't use that. We don't use that money.
Thinking as we start marching towards budget. 10,000, 20,000.
That's true. Well, and I'll look at the history, the next step in our budget preparation process, we'll work on the operating budget. And with the operating budget, we look at the last 2 years. So we look at what has spent, and I'll always go back and see, kind of the history of each line item. So but the next time we meet, I'll have answers to that question.
Okay, any other comments? All right, the miscellaneous business, the next meeting date is Tuesday, March 8th at 9 a.m. There's no need for any executive session, so do I have a motion